first player today started playing tennis at 5 years old and now is travelling coach for Jamie Murray, Neil Skupski. His tennis highlights: first one as a player, who's been selected to play for Scotland. The second one as a coach, who's been part of Jamie's first men's doubles Grand Slam victory, the Australian Open in 2016. Welcome to Alan MacDonald.
Thanks, man.
Alan's opponent started playing tennis before he can remember, so we're going to say 4 years old. Now he's a tennis coach and referee. He says he's trying to retire for a couple of years, but doesn't seem to be trying very hard because he's still around. His tennis highlights were both as a player. First of all, winning Scottish Indoors in 1992, playing with Colin McGill. But more significant, because he mentioned it to me, was that one of his final opponents was John Howie. Only just behind this is taking out Alan and his partner Mark Gilmer in the semis of the West Open. Welcome to Colin Hanbidge.
Hi there.
So Alan and Colin, thanks very much for agreeing to be the trailblazers and taking part.
Already, that's I'm a bit intimidated already.
So thanks for
agreeing. You should be
flattered. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'll take it in that. To be honest, when Alan was reading out that thing about being selected to play for Scotland, I'm not sure if it was I think it was my first Four Nations was the one that you were captain for, Collins. Which was my most enjoyable ones with Panky, and I always sort of say this to people, like, I don't really remember that much of the kind of coaching that I've had myself in my life, but actually a couple of things that you told me during that event, I still think about it sometimes, like, actually stuck with me. So that's I'm sure that's a big plus to kind of have something that can stick in someone's mind for that long.
Well, if I can come back on that, because it's very kind of you, but there's been a number of times where I've had the enjoyment of being a captain in those kind of situations, and there's only been once or twice that I've always said to people, I said it's very, very rarely do you get players that when you're sitting at the side of the court, you know that whatever you give them to have a try at, that they're able to actually understand that and put it into action. And I certainly remember yourself, Panky. David Brewer was the other one that I think was at an under-18 one. And on both occasions, I think those ones where Van Jones was one of the captains. I can remember, I think Elena was in the team with Brewer, and we managed to beat and Jones. So I can always say that somewhere along the line I beat a Wimbledon champion.
I'm sure you do say that, don't you?
Yeah?
I'm sure you do say that, don't you?
Well, we keep it up our sleeves for very important occasions.
Okay, so we know you've played each other probably a few times. What is the head-to-head?
Ooh,
Colin.
Do you know?
I'll go first. I've got a feeling we've only played once in singles. Do you remember? Which was at Blackhall.
Correct, backcourt.
Yeah, I think I won in 3 sets.
No, you didn't. I won in 3 sets.
You won in 3 sets.
Yeah.
Is that right? I think we need to go to books on that. I thought that I beat you, and that the Nisbet brothers beat the other two, but maybe we lost 3-0, and I've just invented in my mind that I've...
No, definitely. John Patterson definitely won.
Oh, that doesn't sound likely, does it?
No, the Nisbets. Well, you're going back a bit.
I'm joking.
You were 15.
Anyway, I remember the occasion. Anyway,
maybe the Nisbet brothers.
I don't think we
won and Colin conceded.
Sorry.
Maybe the Nisbet brothers won and Colin conceded. Is that possible?
Yeah, let's go with that. Yeah, he would never concede.
We'll find that one out because it's going to change today, because we can't have a draw today.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
it is going to change. Okay. No history or baggage. It's all good nature stuff, is it?
Oh, never a problem.
Yeah,
good. Because maybe
you had to play with old Keith once against Johnny Russell and I.
Oh yeah, that's a rough one.
Scottish Cup.
And the time you mentioned in your career highlights, I'm sure you've got some better ones than beating me and Mark, but
I had to put it in today.
That was with Graham Alston, David Lloyd, right?
Yeah, it was that horrible artificial clay they had at that point in time.
So yeah.
We lost the final.
He mentions, when you played with Mark, he mentions it. When you played with a guy from the third team, he doesn't mention it. No, it doesn't come up. The rules for the main part of the session are 2 players compete in a singles match over the best of 3 games. In each game, the players are given a statement about a tennis topic. The server starts by arguing his or her point of view for 45 seconds. And the other player argues his opposite point of view, also for 45 seconds. The player who gives the most convincing case wins the game. For each of the first 2 games, the server already knows the topic. For each of the first 2 games, the server already knows the topic. If the score is 1-1 after 2 games, a tie-break game is played where neither player knows the topic. Each game is judged on how well you argue your case. Okay, both happy with the rules?
Very good.
Ecstatic.
Maybe happy was the wrong word. Okay, let's spin for serve. Colin, would you like to call? Left or right?
Right.
It is right.
Ooh.
I'll go first.
So Colin has won the toss, elected to serve. And Colin's topic is, now both players have chosen to argue against the statement. Okay, so Colin's going to argue against the statement and Alan's going to argue for it. Colin's statement is that mini tennis is a waste of time and should be scrapped. You ready, Colin?
Yeah.
45 seconds starts now.
I have 3 aspects, Alan, that counter this statement. 1, technical. Tennis is a very difficult game, and children these days are generally less coordinated than they used to be. So mini tennis adapts the sport through slower balls, smaller, lighter rackets, and a smaller court to make this a lot easier to develop technical and tactical elements of the sport that we play. Social, both boys and girls can play from a very early age. Also, parents can join in, even though they don't have much experience, so it can be very much a family sport. And commercial, a small space is required, which can accommodate a lot of players. Clubs can increase their membership through mini tennis categories, both for the players and for the parents. And to the extent.
I mean, I go.
Well done. Okay, we'll give you a few seconds, Alan, okay, to compose yourself.
I think we need more than a few seconds.
Okay, Alan, are you ready?
I am ready, yes.
Okay, your 45 seconds starts.
Well, I would argue that in a perfect world, a utopian world, that Colin's argument could definitely hold some water. But I think in the real world that mini tennis actually is not serving the purpose that it is meant to serve. I think that there's too much pressure on the kids in terms of the competition structure. I think that it's not used sensibly to develop players. I think there's so many great players who've come through without ever hitting a mini tennis ball. It's more about smart development and coaching than what kind of balls you play with. So I think if you get smart people with mini tennis, it can work. But I think if you scrap versus not scrapping it, it would make a difference.
We're done. Well done. Good game. Good arguments. What do you feel about the other person's argument, Colin? First.
Yeah, I mean, the problem we've got obviously is how you look at the end product, what you're trying to get from it. And if we go down just the route of competition, then you can get far, far too het up on that in the results, as we know from all the red, orange and green stuff that goes on. But I don't think there's any doubt. We had a wee chat with Judy on Monday and she brought it up. And if you think about the equipment that we use on the big court, for the average person in the street, it's just far too difficult. Unless they've got somebody on the other side of the net that is feeding appropriately to make it work. So I'm sure, I mean, I don't know if you played any mini tennis, Alan. Obviously, Alan and I did not, except for the fact that my dad cut off the end of a racket and put the leather grip back on. So in some ways, he could have earned a lot of money if he had done that 50 odd years ago. So I wasn't sold on mini tennis. When I went to Isle of Man, I kind of thought, what's this all about? And I was left with the job of trying to develop tennis. But where it worked was going to all the local parks that were all concrete and tarmac courts. I got the local council to mark out one of the big courts into 4 small courts, and then was able to do an awful lot of stuff. So at a development level, I have to say that it can work, but not everybody has made it work. So
no, I didn't play mini
all
tennis.
All of those points that Alan's brought up are entirely valid. It's very easy to get it wrong.
Yeah, I didn't play mini tennis because there just wasn't mini tennis then. I started at 10 and just played yellow ball tennis. And your argument, Colin, was around learning to play the game, not just coping and hitting shots.
No.
It's that your kids who start without the mini tennis framework, kids who be starting when not able to start at all until they're a little bit later and not playing the full game.
Yeah.
Alan, you must have played, because of when you started at 5, you must have played mini tennis.
I didn't really, actually. I lived, when I was from about 6 to 9, I lived abroad, actually, and I started playing just with my dad on a full court. I mean, the argument about mini tennis, it depends if you class, doing certain things closer together on a smaller scale with full rackets choking your grip up, and full yellow balls as mini tennis or not. I'm not going to argue that if you're 4 years old that you have to start from the baseline of a full court. I think the whole concept of, you have to be doing mini tennis on this prescribed size of court with this kind of ball at this age is far too inflexible.
Which has been relaxed a bit, isn't it?
I have to say, I don't like the orange phase of mini tennis at all.
No, I agree.
I think it totally, red is great in many ways. And then, it actually gives kids a chance to do a few things that they won't be able to do for quite a long time in their development after that, like start to volley a bit, come forward, the court's much narrower. And then you get orange where suddenly the court's incredibly wide, so you can't come forward. But also there's kind of this, for some reason the balance just isn't quite right, and then they can't really hit a full shot, and you get real tappy.
I think the critical point you've made, Alan, is you've said this bit about at certain ages you've got to play. That's an LTA condition, and I don't use it that way.
Yeah, no, it's been relaxed. The new framework is relaxing it quite a bit. So great discussion, guys. Just looking at what I believe in, rather what I've heard, rather than what I believe in. I think Colin put together a really strong argument. It's a good confidence service game. I think Alan had a really great attempt at breaking it, made him play lots of balls. But I think the big serving advantage was sustained, and I think Colin managed to hang on to his serve to about 30.
Well, probably more like a big serve at deciding point on juice.
Yeah, sudden death juice. So for the second game, Alan's service game he's arguing against the statement, which is with a left-hander and right-hander in a doubles pairing, the left-hander should return on the advantage side. So Alan's going to argue that the left-hander should be on the juice side in a doubles pairing. Okay, Alan?
Do you buzz me in?
You ready to go?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm not going to actually talk about the sort of top level of tennis at all. Suffice to say, in men's Grand Slam doubles in the last 5 years, all the lefties who've won Grand Slams have played on the juice side. My argument is based on recreational level. Often it's said that the lefty should go on the ad side so they can use their forehand. But I say that the team should look at their own strengths and weaknesses, and you might end up on that side, but you should be looking at which shots are more important to you. And it can also open up other strengths, like having your forehand volley in the middle of the court when you're intercepting. So it's not about a strict, inflexible, you must play on this side or the other. It's about working as a team to decide how you work best together. And that's basically it.
Done. Colin, thinking furiously.
Well, I'm not really thinking furiously because I would actually agree with Alan.
Well, it doesn't matter what you believe.
Held to love. So what's next?
you could pick the most ridiculous proposition possible and argue brilliantly for it and still win.
Yeah, you've got to have a crack, Colin. I mean, I don't think tennis should be scripted, but
I've got a little bit of an angle.
Okay, you ready to go?
I'll try.
Okay.
Right, Alan, while I actually might agree with a lot of what you've said, I actually disagree on the level that you are pitching it at. Because I actually think at a lower level, generally speaking, adult players in particular are much stronger on their forehands than their backhands. So with a lesser standard, I'd be arguing that the left-hander should be on the advantage court as a returner in doubles. And that means you've got the two forehands in the outer wing. Again, with the lower standard, if they are being attacked down the lines, then with backhands there, I think they would all find the volleying a lot more difficult. So with the two forehands on the outer wings, they can defend those passing shots down the tram lines.
That's the buzzer, surely.
That
buzzer.
We're done.
I think I can hear.
Okay, good argument. And I felt you guys could have gone on for much longer. We felt that.
We on both topics, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I thought 45 seconds is quite a long time, but you could have gone on for quite a bit longer.
You thought 45 seconds a long time?
I think it's quite a long time for.
Well, I thought it was very short. So, but then I'm a fan of just a minute. So I don't know whether Alan's got that. You'll get it, okay, Alan.
What did you have to talk without repetition?
Superman, you know what just a minute is?
Yes. Yeah.
No repetition, no.
So you've got to speak for a minute.
Yeah.
So I actually did not manage my full spiel, and because I missed out the bit about mini tennis making our sport inclusive, and that it can be adapted to have young players, older players, beginner adults, never ever's, people with learning and physical impairments, and that's much easier in a mini tennis in a smaller court than it is in a bigger court. So I didn't even get that in.
Keep going, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get that in. So did you not think 45 seconds was quite short?
Very short, yeah, really short.
Yeah, we looked at Geordie Guy, which is a football program, and if you look on YouTube, and they argue for 30 seconds each. So we tried that out, and it was just way too short. We felt 45 seconds was just about right, but and I think we found with Geordie and Adam that Adam actually, the first one, was done in 30 seconds. He presented a really good argument.
Yeah, Brownie had been practicing for days, though. He was trying. Yeah.
He was treating it seriously. He wasn't messing around.
It's just such a shame that it got wiped, isn't it? I mean, what?
It's a shame, but we'll get him back on. But he was actually really nervous about it beforehand.
Yeah.
He said, "No, can I see it before it goes out, because I'm really worried that."
He was obviously thinking that it was just like playing Jordan on a real tennis court, in which case he would have absolutely no bloody chance.
That was quite an interesting one, because Alan, you talked about recreational tennis. I was thinking you were going to talk about top level tennis, but you chose not to.
Well, I mean, I felt like I kind of wanted to talk about recreational, because I don't think it's even an argument at the top level.
No.
It's completely irrelevant. It's literally just about where your strengths of the team are. So that's why I kind of wanted to almost try and head Colin off at the pass a bit by going to the recreational level. And I do believe that it's the exact same concept, and that a lot of lefties will end up on the ad side. But if you say to them, people, you have to play on this side or this side because of which hand you use, it's very restrictive, and you might be losing out on other strengths that they can bring to the team. You know, not everyone has a weaker backhand, or they can find ways to adapt with that shot. to get the ball in play. And then if it is served to your backhand and you get the ball in play, then you're standing in the tram lines and you've got your forehand to hit next. Anyway, you can, if you're playing at a recreational level, perhaps you're not playing against people who have extremely accurate serves or great serves all the time. You can start to run around, use your forehand. There's loads of ways that you can deal with it. And I think there's probably quite a few people who have played the majority of their tennis on the kind of correct side based on forehands on the outside that would have probably been better being the other way around, but they just got told.
I argue that with a lot of the club players as well. And it also from a point of view of when you can maybe use the lob, which obviously Jamie does from that wide one. But I think you've just brought back to me something that I'd forgotten all about. I played as a lefty when I was a junior, a guy called Alistair Curley from Troon. Now, when I say a junior, there was no such thing as under 12, so we'd be 16 years of age. And I had a double-handed backhand, Alan.
Oh, wow. Would I like to see that? So
I was one of the first. Bill Moss hated me. Right? So I had a double-handed backhand, and it was my best shot. My best shot by far. So we swapped. My guy, Alistair Cullen, was a lefty.
Yeah.
And he also developed the double-handed backhand. So we played with the double-handed backhands on the wing. And just the same as you said, our stronger volleys were the forehands. So they were down the middle. Yeah. And I was probably a bit better overhead. So I could actually cover quite a lot from that side, being the righty. For that, but I can't remember playing anyone else where, Alec Chisholm was my age. Russell, I will remember him. He was a good lefty. He always played on the ad court, no matter who he played with.
I used to be convinced by the argument that I think it depends on what your opponents are doing. The game's changing a lot, so players are maybe serving and volleying less. But if you were receiving against a serve and volleyer, you wanted your difficult fourth shot in the rally, your second shot. If the server's coming in and volleying wide, you wanted that on your strength. So a wide low forehand, the ball that Colin Fleming hits really well, that low ball wide on the forehand is much easier on your forehand rather than backhand. Okay, so back to the game. A great chat about tennis, but I thought that was a pretty sound service game by, and I think Colin dipped into it. You frozen, Colin? Are you still with us?
I'm still here.
So I think Colin got into the service game. I think again made him play lots of balls, but I think Alan held on to serve again, probably to about 30.
Okay.
So we're down to a tiebreaker. So quick reminder, the format for the tiebreaker is I'll give you a statement or a question. For this one, you get to choose your answer. It's a bit more open. We spin again. Colin got to choose first time. So Alan, would you like to call left or right?
I'll take left, please.
I would hope so.
And it is left. So Alan, you can choose once I give you the question. So for this one, it's up to you to judge whether or not serving is an advantage or a disadvantage. And the question for you to decide and then argue for is, who is the best player never to win a Grand Slam singles? Okay. Who's the
best one never?
Who's the best player never to win a Grand Slam singles?
Oh God.
Okay, I'll give you a few seconds to think about it.
We might need a bit more.
Okay, Alan, ready?
Yeah. So I'm arguing for Marcelo Rios as the greatest player never to win a Grand Slam because for a few reasons. Number one, he was absolutely fantastic to watch, loads of natural ability, came from a country which didn't have a huge tennis background, but came and really kind of played an amazing level of tennis that everyone with a lot of charisma. He reached the Grand Slam final, Australian Open. I think he lost to Agassi perhaps. But he did reach #1 in the world, which is very rare to be #1 in the world and not have won a slam. So I think he had the sustained level and the ability.
Done. We're done. Good. It's a good attempt.
I didn't actually like him. I didn't like Rios, but that was the one that came to mind. I'm going to put in a 20-second challenge, right? So let's just go for it.
Here we go.
Okay, so Colin, who have you chosen?
I have chosen Richard Gasquet.
Just like that one.
Okay, so my argument would be
hang on, you ready to go?
Yes.
I just want to see how far short of the 45 seconds you go. Okay, you ready?
Okay, my argument really is for Richard Gasquet, French player, and it's not really based on a huge amount of top results as being #1 in the world or having won a huge amount of the very, very top tournaments. It's really on his ability to have played and entertained us with probably one of the best single-handed backhands that there's ever been, and just an overall wide variety of entertaining play. He's obviously featured in a lot of incredibly close matches, not only just to mention a couple of times that Andy has managed to squeak past him. And that just maybe on another day, Gasquet might have combined all that talent and ability to win 7 matches in a row for a Grand Slam.
Well done. You filled that out well.
Decent.
Good, well balanced. You're having a wee chuckle to yourself.
Sorry?
You're having a wee chuckle to yourself.
Aye.
That was good.
Well, it would be bad news if it was recorded that I was lost for words.
Should I ask you a question about yourself? If you'd argued for Ronnie Terrace, you could have put together an argument that could have won.
No.
It was not the correct answer, obviously, but it's that was great.
Another good candidate, actually. Well, 2 other good candidates from this year are probably Ferrer and Berdych. Both, I may say, quite a lot stronger candidates than Richard Gasquet when it comes to the round.
No, I'm going to argue against that. You know, I think you're going to look and see whether someone actually had the ability to win over all these other people. Now, obviously, Gasquet's fallen a wee bit short mentally, right? But if the other 2 you've mentioned, Berdych, I'd be really disappointed if Berdych had his name in the Grand Slam trophy. Really disappointed.
He's been in a final.
He's been in
a few
finals. Not been 2 finals?
Don't think so. I think just Wimbledon. He's been in a
Wimbledon final.
2 or 3 other semis, I think.
I think, incredibly consistent, which is obviously not what Gasquet has probably been. But
is Gasquet's? I mean, has he ever had the firepower to beat any of the top guys in a big tournament? I don't think he really has won a match against any of them in any of those arenas. I mean, is he not kind of? I think he's maybe beaten Federer once, and maybe he's never beaten Nadal. Not sure about Djokovic. We're definitely no argument that he's a fantastic player to watch.
Also, he beat a French Open champion when he was 15.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, at the very top level, at the sharp end of Grand Slams, Gasquet's always struck me as being a little bit lightweight. He hasn't had Chris
Lewis. It's not that long ago he reached the semi-final.
Yeah.
I was looking back a wee bit, watching for the results against the Djokovic and Federer, just seeing how they were splitting up. He's been in there. We could have argued Tim Henman.
I thought you might come up with that. I thought that was a possible one.
With having reached all 4 semi-finals. Strangely enough. I could have made an argument.
Come on, get your stats right.
Sorry?
No Australia.
Oh, not Australia, no. You only got a quarter. So, now, strangely enough, the one that he probably should have won was actually the French.
He had a great shot to get to the final, that's for sure.
Sorry?
Yeah,
Had a great shot at the final.
I mean,
they all got
break up,
yeah, in the final they all got flipping cramp.
Yeah.
Didn't they?
Yeah, I think Correa got brain cramp.
Yeah.
Yeah, the French was the remarkable one for Henman, but even Isevic's Wimbledon is the one that he should have nailed.
If there was a roof, then he would have got to the final for sure.
He would have, yeah.
Yeah.
It would have been a tough match still to beat Rafter, but that was a big what if.
Yeah. I mean, I loved the final. I loved the Goran winning it, but I wasn't against him. You know, my kids were desperate for him and to win it. I wasn't, because I loved Goran so much. So well done, Colin.
At least I put up a fight.
You did, and you said you weren't going to, and you did. You got a good.
Berdych or Ferrer, I think I would have been struggling.
Yeah, and Berdych, I wouldn't have.
Berdych because you don't rate him, but David Ferrer surely has got a shout.
Nah.
No.
Those
guys are both also like top, I think 5 or 6 prize money all time as well. I mean, that just shows you how the game has changed.
Well, it is, but the other bit of prize money, because I looked just the other day, what was still frightening was that Sampras and Agassi are still both in the top 10 earners ever.
Yeah.
Now, if you consider how the prize money's gone since they stopped, Agassi was 50 last week, wasn't he? You know, so that big final that he blew was 2002, I think. So they've not really been around much in nearly 20 years, and they're still in the top 10 all-time earners. I think that just tells you they were quite good.
Yeah. I think Ferrer is an interesting one, because in the top players obviously rate him very, very highly, because Djokovic and Andy were saying they thought physically he was the best. They're saying Monfils, because what he can do is just insane, but Ferrer is, you know, as an athlete, it's just unbelievable. But also, depending on how you measure it, he was the most attacking player on the tour, because he never gave up a chance to attack. If you had a short ball, he would take it on.
Yeah, must have been very annoying to play.
Yeah. So, Colin, well done. Great attempt from what was a difficult starting point. I think you did really well. I think just on balance, Alan put together, I thought, was a really balanced argument, because he talked about Rios's entertainment value, his background, where he came from, reaching number one. And I think with Gasquet, your focus was on entertainment. And I think it was a good attempt. But I think as in the tightest possible finish, I think Alan's just got the tiebreak. How good does that feel?
But you still got to remember it was 6-3 in the third to me on that top court at Blackhall.
Yeah, we're going to need to get some independent verification of this. How can we both...
We'll get this checked.
Supermac, well done. If John Stevenson was in charge of the East League results, we'd be able to get a hold of that result.
Don't broadcast that bit, Alan.
You reckon 96, Colin, did you?
What? The West?
Oh, no, that was the West, wasn't it? When was your singles? Alan was 15.
He was 15 for sure.
Right.
94 it would have been then.
When you told me, I was guessing it was going to be 12 or 13. If it was 15, that's a decent win. That's good.
I was a breakdown in the third.
A lot of details coming out here. I'm feeling a bit unsure of myself now.
But
wait, you're a breakdown in the third, and then you didn't break back, and then that was it.
So, guys, thanks very much. Just before we finish off, any big new things planned for when we get back onto court?
I don't see me. I mean, obviously there's 3 guys working full time at Giffner, so with the way that things will shape up, you can't possibly have the same volume of coaching happening with a lot fewer players. So I think I'll be sitting here doing these videos with you, Alan.
Yeah, we'll have to rethink the model. So what about you, Alan? What are the plans? No prospect short term, is there?
Well, I mean, I don't have anything to promote, but on that note, the one thing that I think that they should change, which would go a small way to sort of addressing what you're talking about a little bit, is I think they need to change the license point system to make it, to give points a bit more creatively to coaches who do stuff that isn't paid work, like going to watch their players at tournaments and do a report on that. If you do a 2-page report on your players at the tournament on that weekend, then you get 3 license points. Or, for example, myself, if I'm away at a tournament and I happen to be lucky enough to spend time with Louis Caillé, which I am often, that should be able to be translated into, okay, you've been with Louis 4 weeks this year, that's 6 license points or 12 license points even, and it would incentivize, because one of the big problems with, I think, coaching is that the weekends is when coaches make a lot of their money, but it's also when their players are playing, so they never see their players playing. And there's no incentive to miss a whole day of coaching to go and watch your player play. But then we've all done it, I'm sure. We're all guilty of it to some extent, although I'm sure we're aware of it and trying not to do it. But, you get your lesson on the next week and you're going, well, how was your match in your tournament? Oh, what should we work on and stuff? And you're basically just, scratching around in the dark and trying to get some information. And it's not like a 10-year-old can tell you something that's definitely relevant or even true. You might get like, well, how was your match? Oh, I lost because he kept getting net cords. It's like, oh, okay, anything that you could have done better? No, just the net cords and that bad call at 6-5 in the third set. It's like, oh, okay, so we work your backhand then.
And the parents chipping in with he couldn't keep the ball on the court, so he should be moving up to green. Because time spent watching the players is so valuable. I just don't think you can coach without doing it. You can't coach a player without watching them play tennis. I
don't blame people who don't at all. Like, I tried to do it to some extent when I was coaching at a club, but I didn't do it nearly as much as I could have or should have. And it's not easy. Like, if your hours, everyone knows coaches' hours, like, weekends and evenings and late afternoons, you don't have that much time to yourself. And then suddenly you're supposed to go in on your day off and watch your players play. It's difficult to justify that.
McGinn's been trying to push this with Tennis Scotland, Alan, and he's got absolutely nowhere with it. I have to say, I've probably been quite lucky over the years that I always had it written into my contract with Giffnut. It was quite often parents would say to me, why are you here? I said, well, I obviously want to watch my players. I said, it's part of my contract, because they said, who's paying for it? So I always had that. Mark Openshaw's done a pretty good job at Prestwick and now at Giffnut by putting some money aside so that the coaches do get a rate for going to go and watch some of the matches.
Yeah, and for team tennis too, it wouldn't happen in other sports. If you said to a rugby coach, I coach the players during the week, but then they go off and play a match and I don't see them, they think it was great. They almost think you weren't in a sport. It's like a pastime and a coaching business.
It's crazy when you think about it that way.
Good. So coaches do have a busy life, so I'll try and give you your time back, or some of your evening back. So thanks a lot, guys. That's been great. Really enjoyed it.
Thanks for setting up. Really good fun. Thanks for the battle call.
Thanks, Super Mike.
So that's 1-1 in our singles head-to-head then. That's for your
I'll accept that.
Right.